I've been meaning to write a blog post about this for a long time now, way too long, and something triggered today, so I thought I'd do some kind of video instead. A buddy at the gym, essentially it's about the idea of like specialization or generalist versus specialist, and it was a guy at the gym that kind of triggered it today. He was talking to me about it, and it's a lot along the same lines as stuff I've been thinking for a while and had in my head. And he was, talking about how, in terms of fitness, he's always found it's best to, to diversify as much as possible, to do a bunch of different things, and it keeps things interesting. And then he was, making the analogy too, which I sort of hope to do here, is that's applicable to a lot of things outside fitness as well. It's it's not just in all aspects of life. I mean, it's just one way of looking at things. It's not I found throughout my life I've been I think just based on temperament like a generalist in almost everything. I've never been particularly good at any one thing. So I'm kind of arguing from the point of view of that as a way of looking at the world, and a way of looking at the way you sort of approach different things as an option, because I think there's a lot of push sometimes to specialize or to become really good or really well acquainted with one or two few things, and there's certainly like an argument for that as well. In order to get really world class at anything, obviously you need to be like sort of to some extent laser focused on that, but it's just not the way my mind works, and it's not the way I've ever been able to set my life up that way. So I'm just kind of trying to provide a counterpoint to it. So in terms of fitness, I think he was talking about, we kind of got into a discussion about the fact that from an injury prevention kind of standpoint, the more diversity you've got when you're doing stuff, I think the better. You get overuse injuries from marathoners and stuff that just do long distance running and that's all they do, or people who just play one sport, they get like overuse injuries, like tennis elbow or golfer's elbow. I mean, shit, I've had all those things too. But anyways, it's just like I'm happiest when I'm doing a bunch of different shit, and I mean I think it's good too because it prevents boredom obviously, but you sort of, you never get really good at anything, but you tend to be sort of well balanced in a bunch of different stuff. Like I'm never going to be the strongest guy in the gym. I'm never going to be the fastest guy out on a court or a field or something like that. But never necessarily going to be the longest lasting in terms of endurance and ultras and stuff like that. But I've always kind of, I think that's what CrossFit started off as, is a very sort of generalist approach to fitness. I think it's become sort of more specialized now in terms of it's really focused on Olympic lifting and who's got the biggest clean and jerk and stuff like that. But there's still that kernel, I think, of it. But anyways, it's one of those things that it kind of crosses over to the quote that I'm always reminded that I really like is a quote by Robert Heinlein, who's like a sci-fi writer. And his quote was that a human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. It's a bit harsh, but I mean, to some extent, I like that. The sense that it's trying to convey is that, and there, there's another quote that I like recently that I've read in relation to sort of movement and fitness and that whole sort of trend. It's an Ido Portal quote, and I mean he's a bit of a unique character, anyways. But I mean I do agree with a lot of his stuff. Is that we're humans first, movers second, specialists third, or something like that. I'm probably butchering that quote, but anyways, the idea is that specialization comes last, and then the idea of just being a mover in general, and then obviously like a human at the outset. But yeah, I mean I think it carries over into a lot of things, into intellectual kind of pursuits. You know, the more diverse opinions you can get, the better. The more different fields of sort of study or of interest that you can expose yourself to, not end up like in sort of echo chambers of only listening to a certain type of thinking, or a certain, you know, spectrum on the political scale, or, you know, all sorts of things. You know, if you only listen and you keep listening to the same people, you get into these little sort of, like I said, echo chambers, or I don't know, self-reinforcing kind of paradigms, I guess, or you know, that you're not exposed to new ideas. And I just think just diversity, and diversity of thought, diversity of activity, diversity of movement, you know, opinion. It's you know, it plays out in all sorts of ways. I mean, think of nutrition, you know, like how people used to eat, you know, like you look at like hunter-gatherers and groups like that, you know, or even I was reading a book by Christopher McDougall, I think is the author. He wrote Born to Run, but then he also wrote a book that I read recently called Natural Born Heroes. And I mean, there's probably some pseudoscience-y kind of type stuff in there, but he was talking about these people on Crete in Greece, and how they eat such a, like, I guess, well, he was talking back during the Second World War, but that they would basically eat, you know, a lot of weeds and stuff growing around, and they would have like exposure to, the peasants at least, or the, you know, the shepherds and stuff would have exposure to, like, you know, 200 different kinds of plants on a daily basis. And I think, you know, when you look at hunter-gatherer groups around the world that are still, you know, sort of functioning the way they did at one point, or you look throughout the archaeological record, that, you know, we used to eat a hell of a lot more diverse diets than we do now. You know, and I think there's something like, you know, 60% of our calories come from fucking 3 plants or some shit, like corn and soy and wheat, or, you know, in general. And it can't be good for you. I mean, in general, like, I think a healthy gut biome, you know, all that stuff is best sort of fostered by as many diverse kind of type, you know, phytonutrients and minerals and vitamins and shit. And you just can't get that from like a small proportion of foods. And it's not the way we were designed to eat. We're supposed to just, you know, eat fucking bugs and grubs and, you know, dirt, and, well, maybe not, I mean, not purposely eating dirt, but tangentially eating dirt. You know, and all different kinds of wild plants and vegetables and fucking meat and, you know, anything you get your hands on. Fucking frogs and, I don't know, carrots. Frogs and carrots. Probably more stuff than that, too. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just the more diversity, the better. It's like, you know, same with anything. I mean, you know, look at fucking royal families, man. They get fucking inbred after a while if you don't, like, you know, get some diversity in there. Somebody's got to fuck the pool boy at some point, and you know, introduce some genetic diversity in there, and everyone's happier for it, I think. Yeah. So I mean, I think it transfers over to a lot of different shit, you know, like it's more interesting. Now, I think back on, you know, when I was in university and I was writing my graduate thesis, and I was trying to kind of combine ideas from different disciplines, you know, cross-disciplinary kind of approaches to stuff. You know, this, you know, taking ideas from one seemingly unrelated area and trying to apply them to another. And I mean, I don't necessarily want to bore you with all that, but I mean, I just think there's a quote by Musashi, and I think in the Book of Five Rings, I guess this is the only fucking thing I know that he wrote, but he probably wrote other shit too. It's like, once you recognize the way, you see it in all things. And I think that only happens when you have exposure to a bunch of different, seemingly disparate things, but maybe they have relation to one another. Like, you know, that whole, well, I mean, he was a fucking samurai, but like, you know, the samurai were like, you know, they did like flower arranging and poetry and calligraphy and you know, chop people's heads off too. But you know, there's a lot of different that idea of being sort of a Renaissance man, I guess, is where that comes from. But I mean, there's a pejorative aspect to that too. You know, like, you know, the whole jack of all trades, master of none. But it sure makes for a fucking interesting life, I have to say, because I mean, you know, you hear about these guys who, you know, they sort of like laser focused throughout their life. Say they devote their whole life to a particular, you know, their life is their job, and then they retire and they don't have that shit after, and then they, you know, die 6 weeks later because they don't know what else to do with themselves. You know, like if you're touching on a whole bunch of different aspects of life, you know, you're more I think you're more adaptable. Like, one thing falls away, you can pick up something else, and you know, you're never bored. I've never been bored a day in my life. I've never been particularly good at any one thing, but I can tell you for sure I've never fucking been bored, ever. And there's that sense of maybe cramming too much stuff in that you feel like you're missing out on stuff. Like this, I think this past weekend, fuck man, I did so much stuff, so many different kind of, like, you know, workouts and, you know, shit around the house and stuff, but then I think, oh, well, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. But so there's that downside, because you think, you know, you're missing out on stuff, or you're missing out on things, all the things you want to do. Man, I could wake up in the morning and there's 25 different things I think I could do. Not just, you know, I'm not just talking of workouts, or, you know, but like, you know, projects around the house, or you know, music I want to try playing, or you know, different you know, just different pursuits, you know, and you know, it's good, because if one of them doesn't work out, then you got something else to sort of, you know, fall back on. But yeah, I mean, nobody ever gets all the shit done that they want to get done, but it's like food, man. Like, who wants to eat? Fuck, I love steak, but I don't just want to eat steak. I want to eat like tapas. You know, I want to have a little bit of steak, and I want to have a little bit of, you know, artichoke hearts, and oysters, and unique mustards. But anyways, it's just the idea. You know, I think the downside is that you never really feel like you belong anywhere, in the sense, I've always been kind of envious. I go to these, like, you know, ethnic festivals where, you know, I don't know, Greek fest or Lebanese fest or Indian fest or whatever, you know, and I'm always kind of a little envious that there's that sense of belonging, you know, the sense of, like, you're not that you can specialize in your culture, but you know what I mean? Like, and I'm a fucking mutt, you know, like, I'm all sorts of different things. You get, you know, some Vikings, some fucking French Canadian, some English, some Irish, some, who knows, you know, there's a lot of stuff back in there, but maybe some Spanish. But I always thought, you know, it'd be fun to have like a festival, because I'm like a, you know, mutt, like have a festival called Mutt Fest, and it would just be like a bunch of different shit, you know, like tacos with egg foo young on them, and like, you know, you'd have weird music, like you'd have like Swedish death metal with like a Bollywood musical break in the middle of it, or some polka with you know, some house music in it or something. But anyways, just, you know, trying to integrate a bunch of different weird shit in the same festival, you know. But you know, there's that feeling that you kind of miss out on that sense of belonging to something, or belonging to a place, belonging to a culture or whatever. But you know, it is what it is. But you know, it's the same approach I take to reading. I mean, I've always got 10 books on the go at the same time, and sometimes I don't finish them, sometimes I'm on to something else and onto another idea, and you know, that doesn't get finished. Sometimes I get back to it and it's all good, and you know, you start to see sort of parallel ways of thinking in different books, or different you know, things you're watching, and there's a risk to it, you know. There's a risk to sort of being too scattered and being too spread, you know, that Bilbo Baggins quote, you know, like, feel like butter spread over too much bread. But all you nerds will love that. But you know, there's that risk that you can spread yourself too thin. But you know, and people will say, oh no, find a passion in life, find something that you're 100% devoted to and just fucking do that. But then, you know, sometimes you see people who do that and they, you know, then they don't love it anymore because they spend just too much time doing that one thing, and then, you know, then it feels like work, or, you know, I don't know. The closest thing I found to a passion is jiu-jitsu. And I mean, I only found that 2 years ago, but I mean, and you could say, oh well, you could become too specialized in jiu-jitsu too. But to me, jiu-jitsu is kind of unique in the sense that there's so much possibility within it. Like, it's not, you don't just do jiu-jitsu. Like, it's like a whole lifetime of possibility. And I mean, I wouldn't want to just do jiu-jitsu either, you know. But it's, you know, I think that could become it could become an unhealthy obsession too if it became too much of a focus, because, you know, there's lots of other stuff. You know, a good friend of mine said that, you know, just got his black belt, and he said that, you know, there's more to life than just jiu-jitsu, and he's right. It's fucking good though. Anyways, I'm going on too long about this, but anyways, just food for thought. You know, there's that way of thinking of life, of sort of, you know, really honing in and zeroing in on one thing. You know, you want to be you fucking love tennis, so you play tennis, and, you know, that's all you do. Or, you know, your kid likes gymnastics, so you put them in fucking gymnastics 6 days a week, and that's all they do, and maybe they love it, or maybe they end up hating it by the time they're 14. But, you know, there's another way of looking at things too. You know, you can approach things with kind of a more open mind towards, you know, keeping your not putting all your eggs in one basket, I guess, and yeah, just another way of looking at things. I welcome any counterpoints or arguments to the other side of things. I'm interested in it for sure, but it's just one of those things I've been thinking about lately, and I thought it's worth maybe talking about and seeing what other people think about it. So let me know.